Okay guys, I'm on the guided practice now on page 489, and if you take a look at the first two questions, they're actually very self-explanatory. We've already talked about them in the solve and share and in the convince me. So question number one, if you do not remember the formula for finding the area of a rectangle, how can you find its area? So I mentioned that this was something that you started when you were in probably third grade, maybe even before that. So if I was given a shape and I needed to find out what the area was, I know that if it's cut into pieces or squares, like so, I know the area without the formula just tells me that I can count the squares. So I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and I would say my area was 16 units square. And I just need to remember whatever the unit is and square, because we're talking about squares. Using grid paper obviously can help you. For the second one, how could you define area? So using that same idea, the same concept, think about it in terms of I have a backyard area, a grassy area. If this was my backyard and I wanted to put a fence around my yard, I wouldn't be looking at area, I would be looking at perimeter. I'm going to put a fence around the rim or the outside of my yard. If I'm looking for the area, it's the area that is contained within that fence. So if it was a grassy area or a garden, it would be that middle section, so the entire middle section. Again, to find the area itself, we now use that formula, area equals length times width. Okay, moving on to questions 3 and 4, and this time you don't need to draw a grid. And as you go into the independent practice and as we move forward, you no longer have to draw pictures unless you need that visual representation. So for number 3, find the area of a rectangle with side lengths 2/3 of a foot and 1/2 a foot. So we're going to do 2/3 of a foot times 1/2 foot, and we're going to end up with an answer of 2/6. 2 times 1, 2, 3 times 2, 6, and we can simplify that down to 1/3. So my answer for number 3 is 1/3 square feet or square foot. Number 4, find the area of a square with side lengths of 5/4 inches. Now, they only gave me one number. So what I need to make sure that I remember is, if I'm talking about a square, I know a square has all 4 sides that are the same. So even though I said you don't need to make a picture, square, if this side is 5/4, that means that side's 5/4, that side's 5/4, and that side's 5/4. So if I'm finding the area, it's going to be 5/4 times 5/4. 5 times 5 is 25. 4 times 4 is 16. 25/16. Improper fraction, I can simplify that down. So we ask ourselves how many 16s are in 25, and I know that I have at least one. And then 25 minus 16 is 9. I'm left with 9/16. The last thing I want to ask myself is, can I take 9 and 16 and divide them by some number? So if I'm not sure, I'm going to start with, I know I can't divide 9 by 2, so that's not possible. 3, I know I can do 9 divided by 3. Can I do 16 divided by 3? So I know 5 times 3 is 15. So 6 times 3 is 18, which would be too high, so that would be a no. Can I do 9 divided by 4? No. Can I do 9 divided by 5? No. Can I do 9 divided by 6? No. 7? No. 8? No. 9? Yes. Can I do 16 divided by 9? That would be a no. So my final answer for number 4 is 1 9/16 square feet. That is the guided practice on page 489. When it comes time for you to do the independent practice, and that will be tomorrow, not today, you are going to try those with, in the beginning, numbers 5 through 10, shading in the grid. If you feel like you don't need to, you can also do the multiplication, and then the rest of the page you can do with multiplication. One little note,